Hi everyone, let's see how we can implement a two-way match invoice processing system with the new UiPath Unified Developer Experience. For this we are going to use solutions. We start by adding the first project of the solution, which is an RPA workflow. This RPA workflow will be triggered by emails that will contain the invoices to be processed. This is just one way of adding invoices to our system. The other one, as you are going to see later, is to create a dedicated app just for that. These two entry points are going to persist the invoices into a storage bucket and notify the dispatcher via a queue. But you are going to see this a bit later. I have just renamed the solution and RPA workflow to reflect its role in our process. I will also add the logic for notification and persistence as mentioned previously, but I won't go into details as you already know how to do that. I will now add the app. Apps are visual interfaces for humans to interact with our system. With solutions, you can group multiple projects together with their respective resources in order to automate an end-to-end business process. Getting back to the app, Autopilot enables me to quickly create a form that enables our users to upload an invoice and also enter some basic information about the invoice provider. In case you didn't know, I can easily define the logic of an event handler in a workflow file. I want to keep my file structure tidy, so let me create a folder in which I'll place all the event handlers of this app. In order to persist the invoice file, I need to get the invoice file that has been uploaded by the user. With apps in Studio Web, that's a breeze. I'm only going to access the invoice file uploader user control and pass its value to a variable in my RPA workflow. Once I do that, the uploaded file becomes available to my automation. Now is probably a good moment to tell you that apps in Studio Web are a powerful tool for building user interfaces. In case you didn't already, please try it out. Now let's add the logic for persisting the invoices and for notifying the other participants about new invoices being added. We are going to spend a bit more time here because this logic interacts with other artifacts in the UiPath platform. Up until today, you need to jump out to Orchestrator to create your storage buckets, your queues, and your assets. This is no longer needed with Unified Developer Experience. I can create one straight from here. For instance, the storage bucket that will be used to upload the invoices to it. As I define a new one, I have the same options I have in Orchestrator. However, this storage bucket does not get created in Orchestrator right now. It will get created before debug session or during deployment. But for the moment, it is just a definition within my solution. Once I add a resource definition to my solution, that resource becomes available to all the projects in my solution. But storage buckets are not the only solution supported resources. Let's say I want to upload my invoices under a certain route path in my storage bucket. How shall I share that between the projects? Of course, with an asset. Let me define an asset that will be shared among the solution projects so everyone references the invoices in the same storage bucket path. For assets, mind you need to set their values when you define them. That being said, once the asset is defined, we can return to our workflow to complete the logic to upload the invoice to the storage bucket into the right path. Once the resources are defined, they are automatically added to the Resource Explorer in the bottom left part of the Studio Web IDE. Let's now implement the logic that will notify the dispatcher every time an invoice is received, either via email or from an app submission. For this, we will create a new workflow that needs two arguments: the invoice ID and the path to the invoice in the storage bucket. Notifications are sent with the help of a queue. For this, we start again from activities. We select the Add Queue Item activity and we will define our ingested invoice queue. We set its name, its description, and we are good to go. So you've seen how to add multiple projects of different types with their resource definitions to the solution. I'm going to skip the part where I'm going to add the other projects part of this end-to-end automation and their respective workflows, but eventually it's going to look something like that. Let's take another look at the resources, and we will see that is pretty much alike our initial diagram. With the development being completed, we can think now about deployment. With solutions in Unified Developer Experience, you are in full control of how deployment takes place. You can see all the solution resources grouped per type or per folder structure. You can see their configuration, and you can change it so you can control how they will actually be deployed. Once you are satisfied with your solution deployment configuration, you can publish the solution either at tenant level or personal workspace level. Publishing the solution means having everything required for this solution to work in one single package that can travel among tenants or organizations. Once the solution package is created, I can go to Orchestrator to deploy it. The solution can be deployed into either an existing folder or into a freshly created new one. For this example, I've selected to deploy it into the shared folder. Once again, the deployment configuration will be used to set all the resources with the proper configuration. Once it's deployed, everything is in place and works as a whole. For instance, here is the invoice ingestion app we've worked on together. And here is the Orchestrator folder where the solution has been deployed to. Here are the processes, the apps, the queues, the assets, and the storage bucket. And that was it. Thank you for watching.